That is actually hilarious. I had the phone propped up on my windowsill, and then it fell off, and then all of a sudden we just went live. So
Yep.
the YouTube gods are obviously like, listen, just get straight to it. No chit chat, straight into the live stream. So I had a feeling that the phone would drop, so I placed these towels on the floor. So it would cradle the fall of the phone. So
you preempted it basically.
yeah, exactly. So when you're using a window ledge as a tripod, bad things could happen. So yeah, I'd safeguarded myself there. Anyway, we're doing another one of these discussions today because we spoke about this topic, or you brought this up in a previous live stream, and then we thought it would be good to have a discussion about it. And it's the importance of branding yourself in the current, let's call it, sexual marketplace. So attracting your people and repelling the rest. So actually targeting, like, specifically what type of women you want to attract, because I think what we both found over the years in our own dating lives, and certainly the guys who we've worked with, we don't necessarily attract what we want, but we do attract what we are. And I find a lot of times guys who are, let's say, depressive, or guys who've got self-limiting beliefs, or guys who are lazy, they usually attract their equal in regards to women. So I think it's an interesting concept in regards to branding yourself to attract what you actually are. So yeah, I thought we'd have a discussion about it, maybe how guys can navigate this particular concept, the best way to brand themselves in the modern dating world, so they can actually attract the women that they want rather than settling for the ones that they think they can get. So yeah, do you want to just share some of your thoughts on this topic, because you brought it up in the previous discussion, and I think let's kick off.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of split into two parts, really. The first one is actually just being aware of how branding works for you, in particular in dating. It's if I think guys are just overlooking the fact that if they're putting themselves out there, and if they're either dressed or behaving in a certain way, then they will be literally just attracting the kind of women who are attracted to that particular behavior or look, or lack of it, if guys just aren't working on themselves. So you've got the awareness of, like, be aware of your own brand and how you're presenting yourself, and also just how it works. And then the other part of that is, well, what can you actively be doing about it, so you can change yourself in a way that does attract the kind of women that you want. Because if you're kind of, well, I think there's probably a level of not taking responsibility if at least you know what changes you do need to make, and then you don't do it, and then you start complaining that you're not meeting the women that you want, or you're not attracting the right kind of women that you want. And I think that was actually what was quite good that we did mention about at the end of the last video that we did, that yeah, if you're not working on your branding, then you can't complain. If you want a girlfriend, but you're just attracting women who want one night stands, and that's simply because your behavior is because you want a one night stand, and then you're complaining like, oh, where's all the good women gone? Then it's your own responsibility. It's your own fault with that. And I like the idea that men need to just take responsibility for their own actions. So I think it'll tie in quite nicely. We're talking about branding and again, just that awareness of, like, okay, if my branding isn't good, if I'm acting like a guy who wants a one night stand, but I want a girlfriend, and I'm wondering why I'm not getting that, then okay, what can I do about it? Or if I'm finding that no women are attracted to me, but I am constantly putting myself out there. I'm constantly cold approaching, but I'm still not getting anything. Then it's like, okay, well, right, what can you do about it to change that? So I think there's probably the two areas there: the awareness and the taking action side of it for us to chat about.
Yeah, I found very similar crossovers between my relationship life and my professional life. So, because I'm someone who creates content online, I learned very early on in my journey, certainly with help from yourself as well, how important it is to select a specific avatar who I'm actually making this content for. So, when I see a lot of creators online, guys who are just starting off in the online space, they don't know who they're specifically talking to. So their content is all over the place. They're talking to so many different avatars. And it's very similar when you're trying to attract a specific type of woman. I think to get the best result, you need to be laser focused on one specific avatar. So that's why for me, the message of my videos, I'm specific, I'm appealing to the high achieving, busy city worker who works a stressful job, has a hectic lifestyle, and is struggling to meet the caliber of women who he expects to meet. The guy who has got a lot of money, he's got the materialistic trophies, but he still can't pull a muscle. And when you do that, you polarize your audience. So I'm not looking to work with broke students. They can consume my content and they can get a lot of practical utility from it, but they're not the people who I'm looking to work with. First of all, they don't have the money to actually afford me, and their profile doesn't fit in with my target avatar. I think that is one of the most important points, not just when it comes to business, but when it comes to polarizing the sexual marketplace. I think for guys to get the best results in this, they need to be super specific about the type of woman that they want. Now, it is different at the start. Like when you first start cold approach, you can't afford to be picky. You just need to get your approaches in. Yeah, like 100 cold approaches just as your batting practice. I don't have time for anybody who's like, oh, she's not my type or she's not attractive. It doesn't matter in the early stages. You're still a baby. You've not developed your authority to be picky yet.
Yeah,
However,
you're not in that position to be selective until at least you develop that skill. And then, of course, yeah, you can start being a bit more selective because now you're brave enough to probably go and speak to the women that you are attracted to. So, yeah.
yeah, and then once you have developed proficiency in the art of face-to-face communication, what I then get my guys to do is write down their ideal woman. So, how old is she? What are her values? What does she look like? What are her hobbies and interests? Because then what you do from there is you go to the locations that you're most likely to meet that woman. So, for example, if I want to meet an older hashtag milkshake who's into Pilates, then I'm probably going to go to the high end areas of a city, like in London, maybe Knightsbridge, Mayfair, Chelsea. Maybe I'll start going to yoga or Pilates classes because these are the locations that I'm most likely to find my target avatar. Very much like if I want to find high quality business connections, I'm more likely to find those connections on LinkedIn as opposed to TikTok, right? So it's like identifying your avatar and then finding the platform or the like place or city or whatever where you're most likely to meet those women. So if you're into Latinas, there's probably not much point in you being based in Stoke because you're going to struggle to meet them there. You're probably better off positioning yourself in Brazil or Argentina because your specific avatar is going to be in abundance there. So yeah, that area of branding, going to the source, I think that's super important for overall dating efficiency.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned a couple of things. I was going to write them down before I forgot. But so, I mean, the big thing is it's amazing just how much you can learn about branding, especially I think when you've been running your own business. If anything, I feel quite proud to sort of know that at least the 4 years of me drilling certain bits of information into you, you know, it's stark, but it's so true. And you know, when you're considering the aspect of like if you're looking for a particular kind of woman, absolutely location is a massively important one. and one that, if it's got to be also somewhat convenient for you as well. If you're interested, as you say, in Spanish women, then probably going to somewhere like Spain would make more sense, rather than being maybe somewhere up north where it is going to be a lot colder. But then, like with somewhere like London, which is just so multicultural with different areas where there's different cities. Like I know Stockwell, I'm sure it's Stockwell, that's got a great sort of population of like Spanish and Portuguese people. I know because I had a girlfriend who was from there, and when I went there, loads of Spanish and Portuguese shops and sorts as well. So being aware of location is definitely a big factor, but being aware of what you're looking to attract as well is obviously a fantastic thing. And it's great that you're actually getting your clients to write down what it is that they're looking for. And even then, even if you don't know what you're looking for, I do think it's good just to give yourself like a rough idea, even if it's something as silly as saying like, you know what, I like girls with blonde hair, or I like women with blonde hair, and you're like, oh, I prefer that than over brunettes. And it's like, okay, you've got something that you can be working towards. And then also something that you can be considering, like, okay, if you were based in London, where could you go where there might be more people with more blonde hair? And you might go, okay, well, everywhere has got blonde hair. So what more specific can I go? And again, even thinking about with branding, if you're thinking about like if I'm running a business and I'm looking for a client, where would they be geographically? What would they be like style wise, fashion wise? How much salary would they have? What would their favorite foods and lifestyle choices be? And of course, from that, you can actually start narrowing things down, and it then makes it even easier to go, okay, right, well, that would be where I would go. So using the example with the blonde hair, you might say to a client, okay, well, what else is it that you're looking for? And if they say to you, you know what, I like, I want a blonde haired girl who's a rock chick, then you'd be like, okay, well, you know what? We need to be going to somewhere like Camden. You also need to be considering about your own fashion. If you're dressed in a suit in Camden, it's not going to quite be suitable there. And also, if you are stopping women, they're probably not going to be looking for a guy in a suit. They're going to be looking for a guy in like a leather jacket and hoodie and that kind of rock look themselves. So when you're then considering that, it's like, okay, I will go to that location, I will dress in a certain way, and then I will very likely be getting those extra brownie points and getting those better results. Or a guy might say, you know what, I really like someone who's got who's very entrepreneurial, who maybe like works in an office or like as an accountant or a lawyer or something. Then it's like, okay, well, if you can dress yourself smartly as well, so we can attract the same thing that you're after, going to the city. So Liverpool Street, Bank, St Paul's, Mansion House, that sort of way. Then you're going to be attracting those kind of people there. So just having even just a small awareness of, okay, what am I looking for? Or what kind of woman am I looking for? As well as, what can I do about it to also attract that kind of woman? Then you will find that you'll be able to align yourself a lot more with the results that you want. And there's something else that can be added on top of that when you become more aware of a particular thing, there's a psychological word for this, but
Yeah.
there is something called the reticular activating system, where when you are aware of a particular thing, you suddenly start seeing it everywhere. So if you bought yourself a red car and then you started driving around everywhere, suddenly you start seeing and noticing red cars and maybe even your kind of car and brand and style as well. So you suddenly become very aware when you are looking for a particular thing, because now you're just specifically trying to notice it. So even with that as well, when you're out practicing cold approaching, you'll probably find that you'll start noticing the particular women that you are attracted to or what you are specifically looking for. So obviously, without the danger of repeating myself over and over again, it just then means that you're just you're getting your branding even more pinpoint to give yourself a reason to absolutely go for an approach, but also to make sure that that approach is going to be as good as it can be, because you're going to be speaking to someone who you're attracted to, which should mean that you'll be putting that extra effort into wanting to speak to that person, rather than going and talking to someone that you might be a bit like, I'm not sure, which obviously happens for beginners, especially if they haven't got themselves in that position yet where they are allowed to have more choice. You know, if they're working on their confidence, they're better to work on that confidence and build that up. So when they have those moments of meeting someone that they're attracted to, they are more prepared for it, which is great. If then they can at least be flirting with someone that they do really like, they should end up getting hopefully a better result from it. There was another point, but I can't remember what it was. There was a long monologue there, I think. That was good.
Yeah, it's interesting because whenever I listen to people giving advice in, let's call it, the online business space, a common question that these guys get from guys who are just starting is, yeah, but if I go super niche and super specific, then I'm gonna miss out on a big chunk of the market. Like, I'm gonna miss out on sales. But that's the point, because by polarizing, you are going to find the people who absolutely adore you. So rather than trying to be everything to everybody, you become a somebody for enough somebodies. So it's like 99% of women will most likely not find me attractive. However, the 1% of women who I have super niched myself for, those are like my die-hard followers. It's very much the same as the guys who are subscribed to me on YouTube, or the guys who subscribe to you, or whoever. People will buy from people who they know, love, and trust, and who they resonate with as a person. That's why when I put content out there, I want people to actively dislike me. I don't want anybody to be subscribed to me who doesn't fully resonate with my approach to life. And that's why I never really get too wrapped up about the vanity metrics. Obviously, numbers are a good way of keeping score, but I know every single person who's subscribed to me, and I know every single girl who's in my phone book. Those have been like, they've gone through the polarization process, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for like lukewarm people. I'm looking for like proper diehard cult followers who are behind me, the mission, and they resonate with my approach. I think oftentimes guys are scared of being super polarizing because of the fear of missing out. Oh, but if I focus only on Latinas, then what about the Scandinavians? What about the Russians and the Ukrainians? It's like, yeah, but bro, which woman do you like the most? Like, a good friend of mine, he loves the Latinas, so he's gallivanting across South America. I'm sure he's got an affinity towards other nationalities, but they don't rise as high on his personal totem pole as the Latina women. So I would love guys to just get out of this mindset where they think they're just like that. Like, if a guy's been involved with cold approach for like 90 days or more, and it's like, I'll watch him approach, and every girl is different. I think it's like he's actually going out simply to be validated, rather than because he actually wants to find his women. He's just like a shotgun rather than a sniper. It's like, rather than being super selective and only going for the women that he actually wants, he's just going all over the place. And it's like, usually I find it's because the guy just wants validation rather than he's actually going out to attract women. So hopefully she'll like me. Hopefully she'll like me. And it becomes this very scattered, this scattered approach to seduction. So yeah, I just think that's really interesting. I think, guys, if you have got skin in the game, it's time to individually tailor your approach. Don't try and be everything to everybody. Find the women who just absolutely adore you, and who you adore, and then just go all in with that demographic. For me, it creates the greatest return on investment.
Yeah, well, and it's having that Marmite effect as well, isn't it? You know, you want to be somewhat polarizing, because then it does filter out the kind of people that you want to be spending time with and the people that you don't. You know, I mean, I remember growing up, going on like lots of dates, for like, and many of them were just going on the dates for the sake of it because of just what the industry had encouraged. Like, oh, well, you're a man if you're going on lots of dates. So I remember going on dates with women that, you know, were attractive, but they just, personality wise, they just weren't my type. You know, and in fact, in a way, it probably was also what ruined the situation, because I was just really put off of that they had the look, but they just didn't have that personality there. So there's nothing wrong with being polarizing, with you know, wanting to be attractive to some people or not attractive to another, or just having that Marmite effect play out. But you know, also you can, it's absolutely okay to like change your mind and try something different. I mean, that's also like with running a business, you've got to try different things to know what you like and what you don't like, or know what works and what doesn't work. So, you know, you can't be afraid to, you know, be like, you know what, this is the kind of woman that I want. Go out, meet that kind of woman, have whatever experiences, and then decide, you know what, is that the only kind of woman that I want to pursue? And I think it probably will, it's better. I mean, depending on, you know, for guys who are maybe like looking for relationships, it can be more about like the core values of things. That, you know, if you're looking for someone who has particular values very similar to yours, then that can be what's attractive. And part of then the whole branding journey is trying to find someone who has that same level of compatibility with you. So absolutely, I mean, try everything, you know, meet every kind of woman that you want, but absolutely, as time goes on, you've got to be willing to narrow your choices down. And I think you probably find this happens as you get older, but you want to narrow your choices down and be like, okay, well, what specifically am I looking for? You know, am I looking for someone who just wants to have a bit of fun, or am I looking for someone who wants to have a relationship? Do I want to be having, whether it's short term or long term, am I looking for someone who has very similar, who's compatible with me personality wise, or am I really not bothered about stuff? Am I attracted to a particular physique of sorts? You know, and even then exploring that, because there are guys out there who really like, you know, really skinny women, and then there are guys who like women who are a little bit, you know, something to chew on. Yeah, so there's, you know, there's plenty of things out there, and also as beauty is going to be in the eye of the beholder as well. You have to kind of decide what you want and what you like. And I think guys who are new to working on their dating, or they've had a break and they're coming back into it, they don't know what they want. Which is why, yeah, you have to try everything. You can't just, you know, and even then, by trying stuff, that actually does help you to develop your branding, because then you know what you're attracted to. I think, if I think I remember, there was a guy I once worked with years back, who used to literally just ricochet off of everyone that he saw. And he'd even like talk to women on the street who were like dressed in like tracksuits and hoodies and looked like they would probably mug you. And you know, and he found out just very quickly that he just wasn't attracted to that. But he discovered that by going over and doing it. Now, I'm not saying guys should go and then start speaking to people that probably puts their lives in danger, but definitely by just having an awareness that if you don't know what you want and what you like, then the best way to do that is literally experiment by going to talk to different people. And that kind of reminds me of just how like A/B split testing works in businesses. You know, you've got to try different things to know what one you like and what one you don't like, to then move on to the one that you like, and then you split test that again. So, you know, if you're after like a particular kind of woman, go to different areas, trying different things, and then from that you'll know what you like and what you don't like, and then you'll filter from that. If you like a really posh lady, then you'll go to somewhere like Chelsea. But if you then find that they're suddenly always really high maintenance and you don't want to deal with the dramas of that, or you know, maybe you find women who make you feel insecure because they've got a lot of money and maybe you don't, then you're like, okay, all right, I'll go somewhere else. I'll go for someone different. You know, if you'll then actually prefer someone more European than someone who's maybe more British, then going directly in central London where there's tourists. you've got the opportunity to meet people through that. But then you also have to expect that in that category of branding, you're probably going to meet people who aren't in London for a very long time. So if you're after something more long term, then maybe that's not necessarily the place that you want to be going to. Obviously, very, very mixed in London, but you have to be aware that that is going to be in the mix if you're trying to put yourself out there. So, you've got then lots of things to consider, but never be afraid to actually just try like different things. You can change your mind all the time. I mean, you're 100% entitled to that. The same as like if you end up getting someone's phone number and then they change their mind that they don't want to go on a date with you. You're absolutely entitled to change your mind as well and say, you know what, actually, I'm not kind of into that woman at the moment. And even then, like I think our decisions for things constantly change anyway. When you get more life experience, you also go, oh, you know what? This is now one of my new core values, or oh, this is like one of the things that I really like. And I think, in fact, you'll probably be able to answer this one. But I mean, have you found since traveling, where you've now had the opportunity to meet different kinds of women, experience different kind of cultures and lifestyles around the world, have you found that maybe your own personal preferences for women has changed over time?
I think for me, I'm happy that I did the majority of my groundwork in London because it's such a multicultural city. You can meet the rest of the world on one street. And then I was able to cherry pick my favorite nationalities in London and then position myself in the places where that type of woman is in abundance. So, for example, in London, I had really great experiences with Brazilian girls, Polish girls, Eastern European girls. So, I I immediately fell in love with places like Poland, Bulgaria, Belgrade in Serbia. Those places, I went to the places where I felt most valued, where my relative value was higher, where I like the women and where the women like me. So I think a good point to make is if guys are listening to this and you're living in a multicultural city like London, New York, for example, then you don't have to delay your dating life. Like you can use it to find the women that you're actually attracted to in that city. And then if you've got inclinations to start living internationally, you can start doing a lot of the groundwork now. Like I knew I didn't want to remain in the UK full time, but I used it to my advantage. I was like, okay, who can we meet in London? Oh, I find Brazilian women attractive. That's good. And that's why I went over to Brazil at the start of last year. I positioned myself in Rio because that's where I'm going to find an abundance of Brazilian women. So yeah, I don't know if traveling has changed my perspective. I feel as though to some extent we do have this biological tug inside of us where I feel as though even before I knew what like Latin America women were, I felt as though it's already ingrained into my DNA that I will find these women attractive. I'm not for whatever reason, I'm not really a fan of blonde-haired women. Like I don't know what it is. They just don't really do it for me. Is it nature? Is it nurture? I mean, I believe in past lives, so maybe I had a really bad experience 8,000 years ago with a
But isn't it good though that you've got that awareness of like that there is a particular trait, if we can call like a hair color a trait here, but there is a particular trait that you're just not attracted to. So when you're going out to talk to people, not to go for blonde women, which actually then means that you're not wasting your time so much when you're going out either. You're talking to the women that you want to talk to rather than going like, oh, there's no one else to talk to. There's a blonde woman. Fine, I'll go. And you're like, no, I don't need to waste my time on that. I'm not attracted. Yes, okay, there would be an element of practice in there, but because you're now experienced, you don't need to go and do it. Now, obviously, if
yeah.
it was a beginner, you'd probably say, well, look, you need the practice. Go and talk to that person, even if it's just as little as a conversation, if you're not thinking about pursuing. But there's obviously the element of practice in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when people first start any online business venture, I do think that it's healthy to just work with anybody because you just need to get the reps in. You're probably going to be charging very little money. You might even be working for free at the start. That's what I did, because you just need the experience, whether it's coaching experience, SMMA experience. Like I don't think you want to go super niche, super early, because you just need that batting practice. But now the place that I'm at business wise, if I was to completely change my target avatar right now, it would mess up the entirety of my marketing. Like if I started making videos tomorrow and was like, hi, my name's Kristian, I work with students who are really financially struggling and I help them get girls at university, it would destroy my entire brand image. And also the guys who are already in my network, like the high achievers, they'll be thinking, the fuck's all this about? Like, I didn't sign up to be part of a network of broke students. I want to be with other high achievers. So I agree that it's good to be able to change your mind romantically, but then I think that once you have got an established business, I think you need to just go laser focus, all in for the next 5 years. I'm just working with this avatar, because otherwise, I think you have to constantly change the marketing message, and it gets a little bit too heavy. I see this a lot with
and on top of that, for if you then think about for how long you've been branding your okay, we're going down like the business talking route here, but I mean if you then think about if you've branded yourself in a particular way for a very long time, and then you were to change your branding now to something completely new, all of that previous time that's gone by, you've missed then so many other opportunities of the other branding that you had. So like with the student thing, yeah, if you suddenly went from letting go of working with entrepreneurs and then just worked with students, now realistically, the only time that students ever have money is when they get their student loans. So you'd actually probably then only be working with clients between like September to December, and then that would be it. The rest of your 9 months of the year, you'd have probably nothing. It would be quiet because they would all be broke. They would have spent all their money, and yeah, they would be probably also doing all their exams and courseworks and stuff as well. So by sticking at least then with a brand, because you've obviously had your business for 4 years now, and even when if I even vaguely remember when you first started, when your prices were a lot cheaper, you did take more of a variation of guys that you wanted to work with, simply because it, one, helps your business get going. It brought in that income so you could carry on marketing yourself and making more videos to put yourself out there and feed that cycle more. But yeah, it also gave you the experience to go, okay, well, now that I've worked with guys from particular backgrounds, from particular problems and social problems that they've got, I know what specifically I want to be able to help guys with. And then from that, by mastering that and then becoming the expert in that area, of course, then it means, right, you're the go-to person for that. It's the same as for me, I want to be the go-to person for just helping people with social anxiety. Can I probably advise people with the dating stuff? Absolutely. But do I want to be known for that? No. So when you're, okay, applying that into dating, it's going to be the exact same thing. You've got to start off, try different things, be willing to experiment, be willing to talk to probably almost everyone, even from like the levels of attractiveness to the women that are incredibly hot and stunning to the ones that you'd probably just consider average. But just getting that practice in, and also knowing learning what kind of personality you like, what kind of values you want in the relationship, whether it be short term or long term with that person that you want, and also just kind of being aware of like what things physically you're attracted to, that then does at least give you that option to narrow it down and then be specific with finding something that you like. And in fact, I think just on top of that, it has actually reminded me of a coach. I don't know if he's still coaching or not, but there was a guy called Ryan Black, who was attracted to a particular kind of woman. You could probably even guess what kind of woman he was attracted to because of his name. And he was a really tall, I'm sure he was ginger as well, like a really tall, skinny ginger guy.
I know the guy.
But he kind of developed the niche that he's really just attracted to black women. So of course then, besides guys wanting to learn from him how to cold approach and talk to people. He also had guys who were coming to him because they wanted to learn how to talk to black women and be attracted to them. So, what you put out is exactly what you're also going to attract. Same with testimonials as well. Like when you worked with that Indian kid as well. I'm pretty confident. I mean, I don't think you told me or not, but I'm pretty confident you probably had an influx of Indian guys who reached out to you to say, "Oh, I want the same transformation that guy's had."
Yeah, and there was something that you said which I was going to say. I can't remember.
I know I
Yeah.
have long monologues when I get going. That's my problem.
The testimonials, they help because guys will then see themselves in that person, and then you've got that relatability, you've got that commonality, which like I think that's two interesting areas as well. It's like, are you leveraging commonality or rarity? So for example, if I'm really into comics and Marvel, I would go to a Comic-Con event like we went to in October,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
in that environment, I'm leveraging commonality, right? Commonality, the best way to establish rapport with people. Oh, you like Marvel. Even if I like DC, we still connect because we're both into like that world. But then I think as well, rarity can also be leveraged. Like obviously, I went to Comic-Con. I'm not interested in that world. However, I think because I wasn't actually interested, there's an element of rarity there, which I think is quite compelling as well. Because if you're a girl and you go to a Comic-Con event and every single guy you speak to is into like comics, it can feel like an oversaturated playing field. But I was like, yeah, I know nothing about this world. I did used to have an affiliation with magic. It's kind of related, but I think it's like that rarity element, I think, can also work. So like I could go somewhere like Sloane Square and I might not be dressed to the nines in designer clothes. I actually might be wearing like a pair of shorts, but like they might just enjoy my like ruggish northern charm. So it's like I'm completely different to what they're used to, and the incongruency can actually work in my favor. So I think that's an interesting point about polarization as well. Like I don't think that you necessarily, if you want to attract a corporate woman, I don't think you necessarily have to dress in that way. But I think it's like, I think that the buying temperature is interesting. I suppose this is where the sexual marketplace differs to the business marketplace, because like in business, I'm speaking to one specific person, but like in the sexual marketplace, you can actually leverage rarity as well. Which I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, so with like the clothing thing, I think it's probably more just to make sure like guys aren't going out in like a hoodie and tracksuit and then they're just sort of stopping women of all sorts and then absolutely petrifying the hell out of them. Even if you're confident and stuff, you would still have to make it clear, like, look, I'm not here to mug you. I just wanted to say I thought you were cute. But if guys are very new to this, then I think, yeah, definitely the branding side of the dress sense side of things can be important because it can make them feel more comfortable in that environment. Like if a guy is a city guy already and he's already used to wearing a suit and he wants to talk to women in that area, like if he's on his way back and forth to work from home, then it makes sense that, well, it's probably a good idea, right? Him dressing like that, then as opposed to maybe if he's dressing too casually. But then who's to say, like, he could be still an entrepreneur who just dresses smartly. So again, it's just really more just dressing smartly than anything. But as well, just taking into consideration that, are you dressing in a way that is still going to be attractive to the women that you want to speak to? Because it could be a case that actually, like if a woman in a suit or a dress might be attracted to a guy in a suit, or a girl who's dressed like a rock chick, she might only be attracted to a guy who dresses in like rock and roll himself. So it's more just sort of like a awareness with that. But yeah, just mostly just making sure guys aren't going to go out dressed looking like they're going to go and mug someone and then they wonder why, oh, why didn't she stop for me? Why is she running across the road? Why are the police getting involved? Just something ridiculous and far-fetched with that. Because there have been guys, like I've definitely met guys who even have done like just practice sessions with like coaches and maybe even like with yourself as well, and they've just dressed totally inappropriately for the situation, and then they wonder like, why aren't I getting results? Oh, it doesn't work. Oh well, I'll just give up now. It doesn't work. And it's like no, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot because you haven't dressed in a way that presents you in the best way possible. You know, first impressions definitely matter. You know, so you have to kind of bear that in mind. And then the other thing that you mentioned, like with the Comic-Con thing, I think, you know, you being in that environment, although you might not have known anything about it, being in somewhere like there, it's almost like you're still showing curiosity in that topic. And for you to then be speaking to people actually opens up the conversation to say, like, well, look, actually, I don't know much about comics. I'm actually a magician person myself, but I'm just kind of, you know, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And in fact, that curiosity is what can help to have conversations with people and build attraction. And when you mentioned about with the like, you know, I don't know about comics and I'm a magician, but they're into their Marvel or DC. What you mentioned there was actually a great way to build a deep connection with people, and like an exercise that I do whenever I would do like cold approaching, or even like when I've just given people advice on it. A really good conversation technique is to build a deep connection by finding something to connect on emotionally, even if the topic is very different. So you could say to someone like, oh, what is it about comics that you love? And they could give you a really heartfelt story about, you know, how they got into it and why they love it, and, you know, why they're so passionate about it. And then you could literally give a response and say, you know what, I feel the same way about that when I'm doing magic with people, when I'm at weddings and I'm helping and I'm entertaining people and they love it, they're smiling, they're really happy, you know, and I got into it because of X, Y, and Z. Although the topics are completely different, you're actually connecting those through something very emotional, and that can build a very strong, deep rapport. And especially, I think for the women, it tells them that you understand where they're coming from, even though again the topics are very different. So I know obviously that's kind of something very different. Like it's not really much to do with branding, but definitely just as like a conversation skill. If you're going somewhere that you have an interest in, but you don't quite, whether it be something that you are actually curious about or not, by going somewhere new, it does give you an opportunity to ask questions and show curiosity and interest, which can certainly be a factor in building attraction. And I think you see that a lot when you travel as well. Like if you're in a completely new city, maybe you've experienced this, but when you're in a new city and you don't know where things are, it gives you an opportunity to start talking to the locals. Or if you are cold approaching, then it gives you a reason to go and talk to someone and say like, oh, do you know where there's a really good coffee shop around here, or where like the really good bars are? And then, you know, and if you find out that they're single, then it's like, well, why don't we go there? What a great place to go to. You can show me your favorite cocktails that you have and stuff. Yeah, so you've got an opportunity then to really find out more about the people that you're talking to, and it just cultures you up more as well, and that just helps with making the decision of what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, I think something that I say to guys when they solo travel is, for me, you've got about a 7-day window when you first get to a place where you are officially a tour, like you're new here, like it's completely new to you, and I think it's very difficult to fake that novelty. Like when you first get off an aeroplane, I think there is a natural element of desire, like you're like desirous of everything at the same time. You don't know where things are. You actually genuinely do need to find your way around. So it's like oftentimes like coaches will give drills to guys like indirect opens, or go ask that girl where the nearest tube station is, and they most likely already know the answer. They're just doing it for the drill. So, and usually the girl can kind of feel it. But I think if you go to somewhere you've never been before, let's say, I don't know, I go to Havana, Cuba, then it's like, I think the best thing to do is just go outside, don't take your phone with you, and then use the local people as your own guides. Because I think there's something very authentic about just going out, genuinely not knowing where things are. I think that's when indirect opens can actually work really well. You don't even have to go like all guns blazing direct. Like you genuinely don't know where the nearest coffee shop is. So it's like, oh, excuse me, hi, you look somewhat friendly. I've literally just arrived. I've left my phone in my apartment. Do you know where a decent place to get a coffee is? She might be like, yeah, I'm actually going there right now. And it's like, you've already got a romantic adventure set up purely because you decided to digitally detox yourself, leave your phone at home, and then capitalize on that 7-day window of novelty. So yeah, I think that's a good point, especially when you travel. It's a good way to open up the city for yourself.
Yeah, and and it just sets up the opportunity again just to learn to be a bit more cultural. And if you're figuring out what you want, then it's probably the best way to do it. Sometimes you have to push your comfort zone in a way that forces you to talk to people and to be genuinely curious. And it's not doing it in a way that's meant to be scary or frightening. You're actually just doing something that should really be just considered the norm. Asking people for directions is a very normal thing to do. And I probably go as far to say, like, outside of London, a lot of countries are a lot more welcoming to talk to strangers. If you're nice to them, they're usually like very nice to you, and they'll be willing to help. But yeah, it just means then that you can get a better idea of who you are attracted to and what kind of conversations you enjoy having and what don't you enjoy having, and just shifting yourself down those routes that you want to be doing. So I think you mentioned with like the Brazil thing, 100% makes sense. If you've enjoyed having conversations with Brazilian women, why not go to Brazil? Why not talk to Brazilian women? And then you've got literally then like an abundance of choice of people to go and speak to. So, but you wouldn't have figured that out if you hadn't have at least gone like, okay, well, there's someone over there. Let me find out more about them. And then you've discovered that they are Brazilian, and it's just taken off from there. So yeah, it's good to, I think, just put yourself out there. But you've kind of got to decide also what things that you like as well. And that can be kind of difficult for guys if they don't know like what sort of hobbies and interests they've got. But maybe on the flip side of that, they do actually know. Like if a guy is actually quite geeky and he does enjoy like the comics and movies and stuff, then go to places where you've got the opportunity to talk to people like that. And then even then, you've got a good starting point of talking to people who have very similar interests to you, or maybe even personality. But then you can speak to people that maybe you've never normally spoken to before. Just like maybe you've got people from all around the world or from particular locations, and you're like, oh, okay, well, let me talk to this sort of person or that. Maybe you're also attracted to a particular accent as well. I mean, maybe someone likes a northern accent and they suddenly decide, you know what, I want to go and find a Scottish girlfriend. So, move up north, and then you'll find something that way. So it is, but then even that, it's down to like what makes you happy as well, and what again are you specifically looking for, and you've got to just pursue that. But you won't know until you've actually tried lots of things, and you can start, maybe not filtering actually probably is the right word. It's easier to certainly remove stuff than it is to add stuff. So if you can consider like you've got literally everything in front of you, or what are all the potential options of things that you can try them all, and then literally be like, okay, right, I don't like people with this sort of personality. I don't like people who are taller than me. I don't like people who who are into this particular thing, and so on. You just literally just remove the things that you then don't like, and then you might be left with just so many options, and then that is what I want to pursue, because that will be the kind of women that I will meet, that I will get on really, really well with. I'll have a great time. They're the personality, they got the values that I want, they got the style and fashion that I like as well. They're cultured in a certain way that I appreciate and I'm really attracted to. And you'll find you'll just be then ticking even more boxes, and those will be when you'll have probably your best results. And it wouldn't surprise me if then guys probably find themselves in relationships with those sorts of women, because the relationship will feel easy. because you're just so. I mean, I always like saying that you're on the same wavelength as each other, or like even when we've been out filming, and I've said like, you want to find someone who's on that same wavelength as you, and that's usually where you'll hit it off. And that's exactly the case. The more you can find someone on that wavelength, then the more chances are that you will find your ideal partner, or find someone that you genuinely want to be spending time with.
Yeah, we were speaking about something similar. We had our weekly group coaching call yesterday, and we were talking about the difference between attraction and retention. I think a lot of the content in this space is engineered toward attracting women, but not always necessarily keeping them. Yeah, and I think the real game is played when you get into relationship with one of these women, and then it does become a lot more about personal compatibility rather than just, oh, she's well sexy, I want her. And I think that difference between getting women and keeping women, I think that does come down to your branding as well, because I think oftentimes guys think, oh, I want the absolute creme de la creme. I want the Instagram model, the 10 out of 10. But
But
then
they
when they
never
actually,
hold on to them. They never hold on to them, and I've always found that funny over the years. Like, I mean, even before your generation, I mean, there were dating coaches who were just like solely interested in dating models, and then they'd put out content showing them with like beautiful women. But the reality was that the guys were just so insecure that they couldn't hold on to the women at all. And I think it's simply because, yeah, in regards to branding, they were just going for the superficial aspect of things without thinking that part of what they needed to look for, especially more on the long term, even if they were just having like flings with women, but just being able to hold on to them, they needed something where the personality was there as well. So of course, then you've got the mismatch of then the women are the hot women are leaving them like the next day, and then the guys are just like, right, okay, well, I'm going to have to like put myself out there and do all the effort again to find more women. Um, yeah, that was kind of a digression, but yeah, I think it absolutely is part of the branding. Like there's got to be more than just like the superficial aspect of it, unless you are specifically looking for just the superficial aspect of it, of which then you are accepting on a branding sense that's all you're going to find. You're going to just literally meet people who are looking for short-term experiences. And then if you want, and in fact, in something like that, you would have no choice but to change your strategy if you wanted to find someone who was looking for a relationship, or if you are someone who's looking for a relationship, because your branding would be completely off there. If you're, yeah. So yeah, but it's funny then, yeah, the guys then will actually go then for women who are attractive but aren't like supermodel status, but they are then finding people who have very similar interests to them. They've got the same sort of personality, or a personality that they're attracted to. And those experiences tend to last longer.
yeah, I know. I know. For me, before I got involved with this, maybe in my early 20s, I often found myself attracting women who were very codependent and needy. But like that, at that point in my life, that's exactly what I was. So like, I really was attracting my equal in that regard. Like I was in quite toxic relationships, but it's not the girl's fault. I think it's down to me, because that's the impression that I was giving off. That's what I was projecting. Like I was someone who was not secure in myself, and then that led to me having insecure relationships, because I do think that we attract what we are rather than necessarily what we want. So I think maybe the final thing that we could address is, let's say right now there is a guy and he's not attracting the women into his life that he actually wants. What branding advice would you give to him? So maybe he is attracting a lot of the one night stand girls, but he wants a relationship, or maybe he's attracting a lot of insecure girls who make his life whatever miserable, like what would be a practical blueprint for that guy so we can actually start having more of a fulfilling dating life?
Well, definitely for starters, you have to decide what you want out of relationships. So I know I did a video on this a couple months back where, I think it's really important for guys who get into dating, they need to decide what their short-term and long-term goals are, and being able to at least just recognize, even on a basic level, just recognize what are they looking for experience-wise, because at least from that you can start shaping your experiences by looking for particular things. So if a guy knows, right, in the short term he just wants a bit of fun, but he is doing it because in the long term he's looking for a girlfriend, then at least as he's putting himself out there and experiencing everything that he possibly can, at least then he needs to be aware that for every woman that he's trying to date and maybe sleep with, that he is also trying to do that with women who he has the similar values, or they have personalities that he likes. So rather than it just being a very superficial thing, and then uh again, he'll most likely can't meet someone who it will just feel easy, and then also recognize to give that a go, to not just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to carry on being single. It's like okay, well, give that a go, and see what happens with that, so that at least then you are, respectfully being aware that you need to be moving or experiencing long-term stuff as well as short-term stuff. But then you might get guys who, in the short term they want to fling and they don't want to get married, they don't want to be in a relationship, so their long term might also be, I just want to end up having fun. So from that, you can be aware of your decisions. So like, okay, well, I want to be meeting women who maybe like to party a lot, who like to go to particular locations, who maybe have this sort of style, or this sort of like culture of doing things, and again, just experience everything that you can for starters. Like if you're new to this, don't be afraid to just put yourself out there. You're not in a position to be too picky just yet. When you get to a point that you are confident enough to be speaking to the women that you are attracted to, and that's probably the good gauge there, that if you aren't ready to go from talking to no one to just talking to the women that you're attracted to, then you need to build up your courage by talking to everyone, from the women that you find average to the women that you find super attractive, just to get that confidence. And then when you're there, then absolutely, just you can be selective. But yeah, I think just planning what you want out of dating is probably the big thing. Again, if it's vague, if it just gives you a rough idea, it doesn't really matter. But just decide, what are you looking for short term and long term. That can also change as well as you get older. You've got the prerogative to change your mind on things, but just have an idea of what you're looking for, because that will help with trying to find the women who are also looking for those things as well. So I think there's probably that aspect. Definitely, yeah, talk to everyone. Go to the locations as well. Go to locations where you will find those kinds of women that you are interested in. I think is definitely another good one, because there's no point going to a location that definitely doesn't have those women there, and then walking around, spending hours, and going, where are they? So the example of the Spanish women, if you're going to somewhere that has no Spanish women because they're not existent there, then you're wasting your time there. Go somewhere where there would be. Um, and and then I suppose the other thing is, like, just make sure that you're dressing appropriately and trying to attract the kind of women that you want to attract. I think just as a very easy understanding for guys who are new to this, try and dress in that way that appeals to that particular crowd. So again, if you're after a girl who's into rock stuff, dress rock, go to rock locations, and you'll meet people who have that look and feel to them. If you're after someone who's a bit more entrepreneurial, go to city light locations. If you're after someone who is maybe a bit more sort of like posh and certainly comes from a wealthier background, go to Chelsea, go to Battersea, that sort of place. So, you know, consider even just the locations for you to go to, or maybe if you are after a particular kind of culture, be okay to maybe experiment and travel and go to different cities, you know, if you can be independent with that. But I think they're probably I think they're probably the main things that I think guys can do, because they're just very, very simple. They're very basic things. They're ideally aimed even for beginners to just put themselves out there and try things. But I think that's the main thing. Just be willing to try things and work out what you like and what you don't like, and then just stick with the things that you like. You know, there's no point forcing yourself and going oh, I'm not going to be a man if I don't talk to everyone. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. I know people who can go out and they might talk to 2-3 women in a day, and they will get like 100% results because they are talking to the women that were exactly their type. They knew in their gut when they were walking around, that was the women that they wanted to speak to. So they went over, and because they were so into that woman, they gave it that maximum 100% effort. Not to quote Deadpool there, but they gave it that maximum effort, and they got the result because they were just on that same wavelength. They knew it, the women knew it, and it just works. And that's where I think if you can build your brand or understand just how branding works in dating at least, then there's no reason why you could go out, get the best results possible with almost very little effort.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the final thing that I'll say is, when I think guys have this idea in their head of like, when I'm walking around, they think that every single girl that I see, I'm just like approaching her non-stop. And it's like, dude, that's just not a thing. Like, just becoming this approach machine. Like, guys are just so brainwashed by it. Like, if maybe a guy just bumps into me in London, for example, and we'll be having a conversation, and then a single girl will walk past, right? Just a random single woman. The guy's got no idea about the sort of girl I'm into, and he'll be like, wait, are you not going in for that one? It's like, oh my God, you fucking moron. Like, how brainwashed are you? But it's like, it's the same with business as well. Like, I say no to more people than I say yes to now, because my criteria is so specific. And it's the exact same thing with approaching or meeting women. It's like, I'm probably going to turn down 97% of the women who I see walking around because they're just not my girls. I don't need the practice anymore. That might mean that I go 5 or 6 days without approaching anybody, but it's not about counting your approaches. It's making your approaches count. That's how you can tell someone who has mastered this game compared to a little sheep beginner, because the beginner is just running around like a headless chicken, approaching everybody. But the person who's mastered this game, he's prepared to let opportunities go because they're not the right opportunities. You know, it's like the same as, right, I'm super specific. I want to work with a high achieving, busy city worker. 100 students could come and be like, Kristian, I want to work with you. You're not my people. It's like if I went into like a Lamborghini garage and was like, oh, I'll give you 5K for this car. Get the fuck out of here. Like, you absolute pauper. So yeah, I think it's just super important for guys, go from being the shotgun who's just like spraying to the sniper. That might mean that you're doing less approaches, but don't let the mental game inflict on you negatively. Like, oh, I'm not taking enough action. It's like, obviously, you know, if you're being a pussy, but I think that the way you win with this, as we've described, is going for your girls and then forgetting about the rest. I think that's the best thing that we can give to guys. And I would advise every guy who watch this live stream to get super specific. That means like actually writing down, because the universe notices this shit as well. Like, you're on about like the red car analogy. You know, if you're putting that intention out there into the universe and you're like, right, I want a petite blonde-haired Swedish woman, I guarantee you'll start finding that type of woman. But it all starts with that intention.
Yeah, no, but it's important just again to be aware of what you're attracted to and what you're looking for. There was something that you mentioned there, and then because the screen looked like it froze a little bit, I kind of forgotten it, but I mean, you're absolutely right with that. I mean, you just have to In fact, that was it. So it's the difference between that beginner and someone who's been doing this for a while. You'll see beautiful women everywhere, but if you're not attracted to that particular type, that's fine. Like, I don't necessarily like really skinny women. I've seen guys who, or I've been out, and there's been guys who've like seen this woman go by, and they're like, "Dan, do you want to go for that?" And I'm just like, but she's not my type. She's, I don't necessarily like the really skinny. I actually kind of like the sort of more meatier look, in a sense. So that means then that if I see those opportunities, absolutely I'm going to go for them, because then I will feel the regret if I'm not approaching that when I know that is my opportunity to do it, and that if it could be a while until there's another one to talk to. So yeah, you've got to definitely at the beginning. You do have to kind of approach everything because you're practicing your conversation skills. But as time goes on, you start realizing, like, okay, I can now afford to be more selective in who I want to talk to, who I want to attract, but also the time that I want to spend with those women as well. Like, I don't just want a fling. I mean, I've kind of been there and done that, but that's not to say, like, if I had some short romance with someone, I'd absolutely be open to that. I kind of like the idea of more quality over quantity, I think, these days, at least certainly in my last few years. So if I'm dating, I want it to be more like, I want to see where it goes, and even if it doesn't go anywhere, I still want to give that the chance, rather than being like, okay, yep, the night is over, move on to the next one. So yeah, I can be then more selective with anyone that I do see, because I'm thinking for myself more the long-term goals. Am I talking to someone who I'm attracted to, that I genuinely want to explore and see where things could go? Find out compatibility wise where we're at, find out if she's got the personality that I like, and if she likes my personality as well, and see where things go. If it only lasts for a week, then it only lasts for a week. If it lasts for a month, it lasts for a month. If it lasts for a couple of months, and so on, then sure. But I'm then thinking, right, that's the kind of women that I'm attracted to, and that's also the kind of women that I want to attract. So, and you feel it. I think as well. When you've been doing this for so long, I think you get like a sixth sense. You can tell, like, your gut kicks in. You can just tell what someone is probably like. Obviously, you can't judge a book by its cover until you probably speak to someone and have some sort of relationship. You won't know, but I think you kind of get like that kind of gut, like if someone is probably going to give off more that relationship vibe, or if they're just giving off that sort of like one night stand sort of thing. And but you can explore it, you can talk to them, you can find out, but you can at least afford to be more selective with that. And then you might talk to less women, but you probably still get the exact same results. You might talk to 3 women rather than 10 and still find that you get 3 phone numbers rather than 3 out of 10. So your time becomes more valuable. And in fact, I think then you really also learn to optimize your time by understanding what you're attracted to. You're not spending then hours upon hours on the street going out. You might literally just integrate it into your normal life and still get amazing results. So I think that kind of just answers what you said there.
Yeah, no, I think that's solid. I think we've provided the people with a lot of practical utility that they can start implementing to explode their dating lives. So yeah, really good. I think for any guys who are watching this, they're new to the channel. My name's Kristian. That's Daniel. We both run separate channels on YouTube. We've both got our own individual businesses. If you resonate with us, you like what we do, there's links below if you're interested in working with us personally. And I think, yeah, we'll just finish off with, if you just want to tell the people a little bit more about your channel, if they're interested in going over, take a look at your content, what they can expect from your channel, and maybe as well, like, the sort of guy that you're looking to work with.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, my channel's just focusing on helping guys with their social anxiety, and if they are thinking about working with a dating coach or perhaps they are just considering the self-improvement journey of doing cold approaching, then I tailor myself specifically really for beginners or people who've maybe had a break from doing cold approaching, or maybe they've come out of a relationship or a divorce or something, and just helping them really just get back on the saddle and putting themselves out there. Cold approaching can be a very, very scary thing if you've never done it before, or if you've never had the social skills to do it yourself. Then for me, yeah, I solely focus really with people who are brand new to the thing. Although we've actually got kind of a joint collaboration service where we can at least I'll film guys out on the street, and I'll be able to film their approaches and then give them feedback. And definitely Kristian kind of gives feedback on it as well, which can really make a difference with I think not just with the approaching side of things, but actually also just the conversation skills with women as well. So maybe that actually kind of caters to more the beginner and the advanced, or people who have been doing it for a while who need that extra feedback. But definitely, yeah. I mean, if you resonate with me, absolutely have a look on my channel. But yeah, that's the kind of guys and the kind of content that I certainly put out. And then yeah, and definitely if you actually want to get feedback on your approaches, definitely check out the service that Kristian and I offer with filming your stuff and giving you feedback on it.
Yeah, the first link for that service, sorry, it's the first link in the description. So yeah, for me, the best way to make progress in this space is working with people who are better than you. That's what I did. I think that's what many of the top guys have done. It's the same if you want to get great at any skill. It's like you find someone who's done the thing that you want to do, and then you learn from that person, which is why I've dropped tens of thousands of dollars on coaching, on business mentorship, on networks, because I understand that I'm either going to pay with money or I'm going to pay with time. And I'm going to pay with whichever one I value the least. I value my time over money. So I want to invest money into someone who's better than me to get the results faster. And I do think that, unfortunately, a lot of guys wake up to that realization too late, where it's like they've pissed away 10 years of their life. They're still parading around the pavement. They've got nothing to show for it. And the guy who's got the intelligence to just dip into his pocket and be like, mate, teach me this fast. Those are the guys who get the rip-roaring results. So, yeah, links for everything below. Go over to Daniel's channel, subscribe to him. He's got more videos on the way. Absolute 10 out of 10, certified bangers. You got a video on Crash Bandicoot as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that was a fun one. I tell you what, I picked the most hardest level for that to make the point of like treating self-improvement like playing a computer game. But it was the most funny. People seem to have loved it, which is good. That they understood the message inherently, that if you are working on like cold approaching or working on your dating life, you have to keep trying and failing to learn from it to be able to progress and get to the results that you want. So yeah, it was a good fun 25 minutes. Certainly, I love the nostalgia of it. So it was a good laugh to to sit there and just keep dying over and over again as well.
Nice one, yeah. So if you want to go watch Daniel fail miserably at Crash Bandicoot, then I'll put your channel link in the title, and I'll link you below as well. So yeah, if you've enjoyed the live stream, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for personalized coaching one-to-one, whether you want in person or online. Everything's below, so click that, follow the links, an application form, yada yada yada. CTA's complete, done, check. Everyone's happy. Yeah, we'll do another one of these live streams soon as well. I know we've got more topics to speak about. The people seem to really enjoy these long form discussions. And yeah, I mean, for me as well, I'm someone who much prefers long form content. I don't like just browsing short form content like 30-second dopamine rush. Oh, that was, a little fucking shitty video. I think these videos, they really provide depth and value and utility. And I think it's a good way of projecting our personalities onto the people. So yeah, thank you very much for dedicating your time. We'll do it all again in the not so distant future. And yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good, Kristian. All right, take it easy.